Hello everybody and welcome to round number 9 of the 2022 GP4 DTM Offline Championship. We are here at the popular Autodromo Internacional do Algarve in Portimao, Portugal for round 9 of the season. I am JW97, I am on my own for today because unfortunately nobody else could be available for the commentary, and of course I'm only available on the Friday, so that's pretty much that, really. Hopefully, Christina will be here tomorrow as well to do commentary. I think she has said that she will do, so which is good to hear. So, anyway, we are here at Portimao for round 9 of the championship, and of course, you would have heard background music because Flo has been able to get it to work now for his stream. So it's not just Yuri streams; you'll be able to hear that background music now. So, anyway, I think without any further ado, as I just had a little bit of a tickle there in my throat, we can get underway with qualifying as soon as Flo ditches the graphic that's currently on your screen at this stage. So that's pretty much that, really. Just having to double check once the graphic is down, because I think there is a bit of a delay on the stream from our end. But yeah, it seems that the music does seem to work, and there we go. The background is now off, so let us get underway with qualifying, and let's have a look what the weather has in store for us in this session. And whoa, we're going to have some very interesting conditions here. It's going to start dry, as you can see on the water filter here, but as you can see on the forecast, we are expecting some light rain, so we could expect some intermediate conditions throughout this session, and there is a bit of cloud cover on the racetrack as well, so it should be quite interesting to see how on earth this goes out. So without further ado, let us get to the 30-minute qualifying session here at Portimao, and hopefully should be in for quite an interesting session. As of course, coming into this meeting, of course, we have Rubino Gonzalez, who has a pretty healthy 15-point lead ahead of Juho Soppanen and Max Skillen, who are currently tied for second place. Soppanen being ahead of Skillen on the basis that he's had a victory this season, whereas Skillen hasn't. And of course, we know that Gonzalez and even Titkov as well, and even maybe a few others in this field are currently trying to fight for some top class seats for next season. So we'll have to wait and see how that one develops throughout these next few weeks or so. But yeah, that's pretty much that. But we are now in the garage getting ready for qualifying to get underway in this 30-minute session, and it will be interesting to see how the weather goes. You can see on your screen the rain has already arrived, but whether the conditions are wet, we'll have to wait and see once somebody goes out on the racetrack. According to the water temp filter, it's not meant to be wet at the start, but it might get wet as the session progresses. And Michael Clark is going out on the track first of all, as long as he doesn't get beaten to the punch by anybody coming out of the pits, but he doesn't, so Clark will be out of the pit lane. He's also joined by a few others as well, who are now coming out of their garages now then, and Clark will be making his way out of the pit lane now then, and currently it looks dry on the racetrack as he makes his way through into the first corner there, in fact the first few turns on the racetrack. But anyway, whilst we wait for the laps to get underway, of course, in case you are unaware now, the DTM sign-ups are now open for you guys to sign up to, and a new era dawns for DTM in 2023, of course, because obviously we will be moving away from the equal cars for next season, and it will be a non-equal championship will DTM be in 2023, following the routes of Formula E and World Champ Car in that direction. And of course, there are 4 new manufacturers joining as well. Of course, we already knew 3 by the time that the sign-ups came out, which were of course Ferrari, Corvette, and of course Lamborghini, but there was obviously one more that got announced when the sign-ups opened, and that was of course Aston Martin, who will be entering 2 teams next season. And as a result of these new manufacturers entering, it has meant that some of the existing Mercedes, Audi and BMW teams will be pulling out at the end of the season. So of course, obviously in terms of Audi, they'll be cutting down their entrance from 3 to 1, so that's obviously something to keep an eye on there. Then obviously 1 entrant for Audi, and that will of course be the Team Apt team, of course, or Team Apt Sportsline as they're known currently this season, meaning that Team Phoenix and Team Rosberg will be pulling out at the end of the season. And I think for one Italian who's been quite vocal about Audi this season, I think he's particularly happy about that, as we now look at Clark, who's just come out the exit of the first sector, 23.035. In terms of BMW and Mercedes, they'll be having 2 entrants as opposed For Mercedes, in terms of the teams that will be staying on, they are, of course, the Petronas team, which is currently the team that Clark drives for, albeit under the Team Britain alias. And the other team, of course, being Cyberfile, which I hope I pronounced that right before Flo decides to kill me on that one. But anyway, as they are the two teams staying on for Mercedes, so that means as a result, the Remix team and also the Mercedes-AMG Motorsport team will be pulling out at the end of the season. In terms of BMW, RBM will be staying on in 2023, as will the Triple R team, but the other two teams, which are of course RMR, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that, the RMG and the RMR team are the two teams pulling out. One of them, of course, is the Germany team. I'm not sure which one that is, but they will be pulling out at the end of the season, so it'll be quite interesting to see on that one. We'll talk about the new manufacturers in a minute, because Clark has done a benchmark time of 1:21.5. Parrish wasn't able to beat that, as Wee goes into third. Mackenzie now goes to the top of the timing sheets. Here comes Daniel Fraser, who goes into fifth. Sam Fact across the line to go into sixth position. Lean Campana now then across the line he will go. He goes into fourth position. Max Skillen across the line he goes into third. Mirren FG now then crosses the line in the Mercedes to go into ninth. TJ Papero crosses the line to go into 10th. Gabriel Quintino, P10 for him. Matthias Turwick crosses the line to go into third position, 31 thousandths off of Jay McKenzie there. Franco Gama only slots to 12th there, 6/10 off. Soppinen only P12 there, the man who's closest to Gonzalez in the championship. Ibobo currently lies in 4th. Here is the championship leader Gonzalez, only 16th though for the championship leader on the first lap. Moptrin, P10 there. Will Nella crosses the line, goes into 4th, as we now look at Josh Fings and the Audi now. Then he makes his way across the line and he goes into 19th. Dennis Graf goes into P5. Two more cars left. Titkov crosses the line to go into 11th, and Mohammed Usman Hamid goes into 12th position. So the whole pack currently separated by 9/10 of a second, but currently it is Jay McKenzie at the top of the timing sheets by only 5 thousandths of a second ahead of the man we're currently viewing right now, which is Michael Clark in the Mercedes. So yeah, that's that really. But anyway, whilst we wait for the next flying laps to happen, of course, we might as well talk about the new manufacturers, of course, and specifically the teams that they'll be entering in that series next season for DTM. And of course, very exciting times for this season series as a whole. I think it's kind of reflected really on the amount of sign-ups this series has got so far in the 2023 sign-ups. And of course, on the topic of sign-ups, before I talk about the new teams as well, the Formula E and World Champ Car joint sign-ups, which were meant to open today, they have of course been pushed back to tomorrow, I think at the same time, 8 PM BST, and that is because Yuri made an error in the sign-up document for Formula E and World Champ Car, which, due to the fact that he's currently busy today, he's been unable to fix, so he can't be able to fix that until tomorrow. So that's why you haven't seen the Formula E or the World Champ Car sign-ups coming out at 8 PM later on. They won't be out tonight, they'll be out tomorrow instead, and because Yuri will have enough time to correct that issue that he had with the sign-up there. But back to the new teams that are, of course, entering, of course. So we know that that Aston Martin will be entering 2 teams, that being Aston Martin Racing and, of course, Northwest AMR will be the other team. And of course, the car that they'll be using, of course, if anybody is curious, will be the Aston Martin DBR9 GT1 car, to be exact, as kind of has a similar build to the DTM cars. In fact, we were kind of looking at cars that had a similar build, and we found that the GT cars had a little bit of a similar build to the DTM cars anyway, so it wasn't really that much of a problem. So anyway, Corvette, they'll be entering one team, which if anybody is familiar with the Grid series, you'll probably recognise that team, that being Raven West Motorsport. Obviously, I know the Grid series quite well because I think I've got 3 of their games. I think my brother actually has the first PS4 game that came out for it. Yeah, Raven West Motorsport, quite familiar to people who played the Grid series, of course, so they'll be making their way over to the OC. We're making them a team in the OC, but I don't think they'll be up to any dodgy shenanigans in the OC. I think we can guarantee you that one. But anyway, Ferrari, of course, will be having 2 teams. They will be having AF Course, and the other team being Prema Racing, who of course are moving over from Formula 2 into DTM, of course. Obviously, they're pulling out of Formula 2 at the end of the season, but they are not going away from the OC fraternity. Instead, going to be one of the Ferrari teams in DTM next season, so that's going to be very exciting to see. And of course, forgot to mention the car that the Corvette is using, for anybody wondering. The Corvette will be using the Corvette C6.R or CR6 for as it's also known by, and that is also a GT1 car, like the Aston Martin DBR9 is. The Ferrari, on the other hand, that's using a GTE car. That's using the Ferrari 458 GTE. And the other new team, Lamborghini, of course, will be using the team, of course, because they're entering one team, will be the squad. That team kind of runs the Lamborghini team in the top class as well, hence the name Portimao Lamborghini Squadra Corse in the top class. So it kind of made sense for Squadra Corse to also have a DTM team next season. And the car that Lambo will be using will be the Lamborghini Gallardo GT3 car. So that'll be interesting indeed. It'll be interesting to see what these new manufacturers can do. Of course, with the sign-ups, of course, Flo did put them in the order of what the performances should be for next season. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be how the championship's going to finish, because as we've seen in the top class, things can change on a like pretty much that really, at the click of your fingers. Because sometimes it doesn't follow what you would originally think, and I would imagine that's going to be the same case with DTM, but we'll wait and see. But as I was just rambling on there about the new teams, you may have noticed the conditions have now changed. There are now dots on the racetrack. The tarmac is getting a little bit darker now on the racetrack, and well, it looks like we could be seeing lap times not improving as a result, which means that these first laps might have been the only laps we're going to be seeing out of today, really. But as you can see, proof there with Max Skillen, 2 seconds off the pace, although he did take a wider line going through into Portimao there. So a bit of an interesting line there for the Scotsman, who currently is in a tied second in the Drivers' Championship with Juho Soppanen. But yeah, either way, it should be quite an exciting championship. It's definitely one that Flo is definitely looking forward to as well next season. So now we've got spray on the racetrack. As you can see, there is now spray being kicked up coming out of the final turn there, as Skillen crosses the line, does not improve as a result of that. Here comes Xavier Wee in the Audi. He's now going to cross the line, and he is not going to improve. Josh Fink starting a lap. Jay McKenzie across the line to do a 1 minute 24.9. So as a result, these are probably going to be it. And it means as a result, unless the tarmac dramatically improves in these remaining 20 minutes of this qualifying session, it will mean that this man right here, Rubino Gonzalez, will be starting on the back row of the grid. So the championship leader is going to have quite a lot of work to do in the race tomorrow if he wants to get a result out of this and ensure that he still has a healthy lead in the Drivers' Championship, as he comes out of the first corner there, as everybody else crossing the line. A 125 for Campana, a 125 for Fraser, as it's also going to be a 125 for Quintino in the Mercedes, a 125.0 for Miran FG there, as now Sam Fact comes across the line in the BMW. What sort of lap time is he going to produce? The 125.5, as TJ Papero now crosses the line in the Mercedes, 4.2 seconds off. There then, as Roland Motrin does a 125.5, Mohammed Usman Hamid does a 126.0, so he was pretty much the slowest out of all those lot in those wet conditions. As you can see, the drivers are still on the wet tyres, but it wouldn't surprise me that the next time they come back out on the track, they'll be on the intermediate tyre. It wouldn't surprise me too much if that is going to be the case, but we'll obviously wait and see on that one. If Bobo crosses the line, and he obviously does a 126 there as well, so in fact he went a little bit slower than Hamid on that occasion, as Rubino Gonzalez and the majority of the guys now are heading back into the pits. But as mentioned, unless the track dramatically improves, I think we're probably looking at the order that we're currently looking at on the timing screens at the moment. So yeah, that's that really. So yeah, that's pretty much that really, as now we can see Matthias Terwick making his way back into the pits now then in the Rosberg car, as now he makes his way into pit lane, as Terwick now then will be putting our way back into the pits now then, as it looks like he's going to be starting in third now that the conditions have changed. But of course we can't officially say that until the session has come to a close, because you never know if the conditions will dramatically change or not. It is GP4, sometimes that can happen at times, but so far from what we've seen throughout other previous qualifying sessions, that doesn't seem to be the case, especially during 30-minute qualifying sessions, as Turwick now then gets wheeled back into the garage. Now then we look at the leaderboard now then, whilst everybody comes back into the pit. So this is what the grid will look like at the moment. Well, I say that, and I've got to hold the phone on this one, because something's just jogged my memory there, because I actually kept it on a note, of course. I would say that is the grid, But, of course, there is one driver out there that does have a grid penalty for this race for, I think, a dangerous rejoin at the last race at Aragon, that being Maxim Titkov. He, of course, has a 5-place grid penalty for this race, so wherever Titkov ends up, he will start 5 places back, and given that the conditions have now gotten worse, you'd imagine that's going to be P16 on the grid for Titkov. So, that's that, really. But anyway, this is what the leaderboard looks like then in this qualifying session if things don't improve as more cars go out onto the track. Are they on the intermediate conditions, I wonder, as we look at Michael Clark as the... yes, he is on the intermediate tyres, of course, new for this season as well. We do have now green intermediate colouring now then for these cars, but we also have full wet tyres as well for the drivers as well, which is blue. And but they look like they're still slicks for some guys. It looks like Clark seems to be the only one out there at the moment that's on the wet tyres, unless that they look like wet tyres, in fact, for Skilling. So the first 3 cars have gone out on 3 different compounds of tyres. You got Clark on the inters. Obviously, the guy who came out second is on the wet, and Titkov is on the dries. But it looks like that Titkov's actually going to be the only one on the dries, because it seems that either they're going out on the inters or they're going out on the full wet tyres. It's kind of a mix there in terms of tyre compounds. But I think the team might be a little bit, the team that Titkov's driving for might be a little bit asleep there, because you can clearly see it is now fully wet on the racetrack. But as I was saying before drivers started going out on the track, this is what the leaderboard now looks like then. So Mackenzie is at the top with Clark in second, Turwick in third, Nella fourth, then it is Graf in fifth, Ibobo in sixth, Skull in seventh, Parish in eighth, Campana ninth, Wee in 10th, Titkov is 11th, but at the moment he will start 16th from that 5th place grid penalty that he's currently got. Apologies there. Hamid in 12th, Fraser in 13th, Motra in 14th, Fact in 15th, FG 16th, Quintino is 17th with Sopodan in 18th, Garma 19th, Papero in 20th, Gonzalez in 21st, and it looks like he's going to have a lot of work to do in the race tomorrow thanks to the changeable conditions, and Josh Fings in 22nd position. So, yeah, that's what the leaderboard looks like, unless, of course, we do have a dramatic change in the weather forecast. There's still more cars making their way out on the racetrack now then. But, yeah, that's that really, as they now... most of them try and do a lap time in those wet conditions. I think Titkov, has he just started a lap on the dry tyres, or has he got a call to perhaps come back in? He's got a call to come back in. I do not know what the team were thinking there, putting him out on the dry tyres, but there we are. Titkov has had to make an impromptu stop back into the pits as a result. Ibobo, I think, is just coming out on the track, because I think I did see a car just go past, and he is. So it looks like that Things, in fact, either will go out on track now that Titkov's back in, or he'll have to stay in the garage a little bit longer, and Titkov will be going back out on wet. But knowing the game, I think Things will be going out onto the racetrack, as Clark now then makes his way through into Portimao now then, making his way down the hill, and you can tell how much time they're now losing in these wet conditions. 4.7 seconds is the gap in the middle sector now then, as Clark making his way around the final few turns on the racetrack now then, as now we come around the final couple of corners on the racetrack. There goes Michael Clark. So let's see what sort of lap time he will do now then, as he now comes around the final turn and onto the pit straight he goes. What lap time can he do in these conditions? Michael Clark, well, Graf's just starting a lap now then, but Clark is crossing the line in the background, and he did, I'm not sure what lap time he did there. It looks like Things is coming out on track. Skillen obviously not able to improve. Garma doing a lap now then in the wet conditions, as across the line in the background goes somebody. I would have liked to have seen the lap times there, but I'm not going to be able to see that. Anyway, Xavier Wee now then across the line. What's his lap time going to be in these conditions? It is a 1:28.3 in the Audi, as Quintino does a 1:29 there. Parish a 1:29.3 in the Audi there then, as Bobo just starting a lap now then, trying to see if he can get used to these conditions. As Gonzalez, not a very good time there, 1:28 for him in these conditions, as Turwick also does a 1:28 as well in the Audi. A 1:28 also for Lean Campana, who looks like he's going to be starting in 9th unless the conditions dramatically change, as Josh Fings now then makes his way out on the racetrack in the Audi. 1:28.9 for Mirin Efchi in the Mercedes there, 1:28.2 for the pole sitter Mackenzie, 1:31.8 for Soponen, so he's a bit off there, 1:29.0. for I think that was it was one of the Mercedes anyway. Papero that was. Sam Fact he does a 1 minute 30.0. Will Nello a 1:28.4 in the Mercedes. So it does appear like the intermediate conditions seem to be the better tyre at the moment. The intermediate tyre, I should say. And was that actually a dry line that's actually starting to emerge in the first corner there? I might be wrong on that, but it looked like there was quite an interesting pattern at the first corner there. Was that a dry line that was starting to emerge into the first corner there? We'll have a look when Gamba crosses the line now then, and he does a 1:28.9. But was there a dry line, or was that my eyes deceiving me a little bit there? Let's see. And no, I was not kidding. There is a little bit of a dry line at the first corner, as you could see. So there's a narrow bit, but it wouldn't surprise me, given that there's still quite heavy conditions out there, that the conditions, the dry line that you see in the first few corners there might actually start to go away. But we'll obviously wait and see on that, as we know that Josh Finks came out onto the track, of course, because he had to, obviously, because the Titkov, of course, had to pit for dry tyres. So yeah, that's that really. We already saw that anyway, because he was on the dry tyres, and so he obviously got the pit call to come back into the pits. But anyway, as Josh Finks now then will be starting his lap, so it kind of means as a result of Titkov having to make that impromptu pit stop, and so now we come around the corner as Campana now comes into the pit. And what would be the fun in that, Rubino? Come on. You're only saying that because you're down in 21st, if I'm being totally honest. Because you wouldn't be saying that if that was real life, if I'm being totally honest with you, Rubino. I get you're the championship leader, but come on. These things happen. As Campana is now into the pits, as the gap is currently 9 tenths between everybody else, unless, of course, as I keep saying a million times in the stream, unless the conditions change, of course. This looks like it's going to be the grid, of course, minus the Titkov, of course, because he'll be starting 5 places down from where he is at this stage, which is P11. But, yeah, that's that, really. As, hey, Max Skillen, who's just joined us in the stream chat there. And just looking around in terms of the contenders to Rubino Gonzalez, in fact, because coming into this, of course, Gonzalez had a 15-point lead in the championship. Soppinen is currently also down the field. He's down in 18th place. Skillen is, well, he's up in 7th place, in fact. So he's just about in the top 10 in terms of that. But nothing really too threatening for Gonzalez in terms of the gap that he's got in the championship. What? No, I would suggest improve, because Yuri does the same thing. Because Yuri does the same thing, really. Because you never know with GP4. I know that it's raining, but again, you never know, of course. I mean, Yuri has the same approach when it comes to the top class, so that's pretty much that, really. But yeah, as now Gonzalez heads his way on the track, as you can see on the left-hand side. I think that's Fings that's just started a lap, in fact. Or could that have been someone else? No, it is Fings, and whoa, Fings is going to get a little bit compromised into the first corner there, just as Gonzalez goes out onto the track. So that's that. In fact, he just finished the lap, did Fings, and that's why he's got the pit icon there. As we now look at the rest of the field, as Clark now then making his way in towards turn 3, and then into turn 4 he will go. And of course, even though we don't see any improvements at the moment, it will be fascinating to see how everybody else does with these conditions. And of course, we'll have to wait and see, of course, when what happens, of course, in the race tomorrow. We don't know what the conditions are going to be like in the race tomorrow. And of course, this track usually provides quite a bit of action for all the series that take part in this series. So yeah, that's pretty much that, really. As now Gonzalez making his way through these section of corners before making his way into the double right-hander now then, as Gonzalez making his way down the hill through into the left-hander now then we go, as Gonzalez now then into the final couple of corners he goes, as he will be starting his next wet lap on the track now then, as Clark will be making his way also into the final few turns on the racetrack. But yeah, that's that, really. And I've also noticed as well, I might as well point this out to you, Flo, whilst we've got this going on. I think ever since you had that technical issue during the F2 race, it seems that the stream delay is kind of a little bit behind, a lot behind now, because I'm looking at Gonzalez. Obviously you guys won't see this, but Gonzalez is at turn 1, but on the stream, he's just only coming around the second to last corner, so it's a little bit of a gap, really, between the stream delay that we have here. I think that technical issue that we had in F2 back on Tuesday might have affected that, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that could be the case from experience with OBS, but I guess that's something that Flo could possibly look into for tomorrow's race. Obviously, for anybody wondering, of course, whilst we've got this time on our hands, of course, I won't be there to do commentary. I'm only available today to do the commentary for DTM, but I do believe that Christina will be there in the commentary box tomorrow, because of course Christina came back from Switzerland on Thursday, and I think Christina was originally meant to do commentary today, but I think she had other commitments on Friday, but hopefully she should be back for tomorrow, and hopefully there'll be somebody else as well alongside. As I thought for a minute there, Gonzalez had a bit of an aquaplane moment through into the double right-hander there, but yeah, that's pretty much that really. As Gonzalez now then making his way through into the final few turns on the racetrack. As now Gonzalez making his way through the final couple of corners and onto the final turn. He will go on the racetrack. As now Gonzalez into the final turn, down the hill, down the pit straight he will go, and across the line will go the Spaniard now then. Gonzalez crosses the line and no improvement stays where he is, as we still have just over 7 minutes to go in this session. As Clark now then crosses the line, what sort of lap time is he going to do? It is a 1 minute 31.1. Graf starting a lap just as Skillen tries to perform an overtake on him into the first corner, which might actually compromise Graf as a result there of trying to get some wet mileage in, and as a result Skillen actually does overtake him into the first corner there. Lean Campana, no improvement for him, same for Xavier Way. He stays where he is. Mirin Efchi, of course, a 1:28.9. Roland Motrin crosses the line, a 1:28.8. As we look at Daniel Fraser, who's just making his way through into the final turn. And onto the pit straight now then will go the BMW driver, as he now crosses the line, and it's a 1:28.9. Sam Factor 1:29.0. As we now look at Maxim Titkov, who's now just coming around the final turn. And onto the pit straight now then he will go, and the lap time is going to be a 1:32.9. I think that's the slowest we've seen so far in these wet conditions. A 1:29.2 for Soppen in there, a 1:29.4 for Papiro. So that's that. As we look at Dennis Graf now then in the BMW, as well, he has a lot of aquaplane as well. I think he's made the same mistake there as what I saw. I think it was it Rubino Gonzalez into that corner? I might be wrong on that, but a bit of an aquaplane moment there for Dennis Graf. Luckily the car didn't veer wide there going into the corner, just as he's currently holding up Jay McKenzie now then in the BMW. As now we come around the final couple of corners on the racetrack, as now we just comes around the corner, and just for note as well, Flo, it looks like it's about 20 seconds behind from what I can see on the stream, so something to bear in mind there. As now Nella comes around the final corner. Of course, apologies for the tarmac disappearing. It is a bit of a glitch that is beyond our control really. There's not really much we can do about that one, I'm afraid, but obviously sometimes it's not the only track to have that glitch, by the way. I know for a fact that I think I even mentioned it in the stream chat last season that the B layout of Shanghai also has a similar problem. Yes, there is a B layout of Shanghai that's available on Grand Prix 4 as well, in case anybody was wondering, and that has a similar tarmac issue as well near the pit straight, so kind of similar to Portimao really. It's a bit of a weird one. It affects a few tracks, it's not just this one. It's a bit of a weird one, but yeah, that's GP4 things, I guess. There are some limitations, even with how good the modding scene is on GP4. There are still some limitations, like with many games as well. You can do really, so but who knows really if that can be fixed in the future or not. But anyway, it's Bobo now then making his way into the final corner around the final turn. We'll go Victor Bobo in the Audi as he now comes into the pits, of course, and it looks like he's going to be starting in 6th place for tomorrow's race. But yeah, that's that really, as Graf comes around the penultimate turn, as now he will now approach the final corner. Through the final turn and onto the pit straight will go the German driver, as he now comes into the pits as well. He's currently P5 at the moment in the BMW. As Nella now then also makes his way into the final turn as he comes into the pits. Currently P4 at the moment in the Mercedes, as Fings now then heads his way down the hill through into the left-hander he goes, And of course, everybody's kind of out of sync, really, in terms of everybody going out on the track, of course, because you may remember a little bit earlier on in the session, Titkov, of course, went out on dry tyres for some bizarre reason, even though the track was clearly wet. But he then came back into the pits, which, because Things was usually the one that gets left behind in the session, it meant his car spawned and Titkov's despawned as a result of that. So it meant, as a result of Things coming out at quite an unusual time compared to everybody else, it means that kind of the pattern that we usually see on GP4 is messed up a little bit now because of that. But yeah, that's that really. As Things now did, there's a 129.0 in the wet conditions. I think he said that on the full wet tyres, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they looked like they were green on the outside of the carcass there. I think that was the blue tyre on Things, unless, yes, it was. I was correct there. So I think that was a pretty quick time now on wet conditions, because so far the Inter conditions, the Inter tyres have usually been the better tyre for this, but clearly it seems that there is a little bit more grip out there for the wet tyres to match the Inter conditions, really. But anyway, as Gonzalez now then makes his way into the final couple of corners, as Turwick, Wee and Hamid are now out on track, we now look at Josh Things, who, of course, he's heading his way back into the pits, and I think these will be the final flying laps that we're going to get today, because as you can see, we've still got just under 2.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. And of course, it looks like that Jay McKenzie will get a pole position. I think he's already had a pole this season, if I'm not mistaken, just looking around. And he actually hasn't. I thought he had a pole this season, but clearly my knowledge is a little bit all over the place there. I think he's obviously had a pole last season, I know that, but this will be his first pole of the season. And Jamie McKenzie, it's safe to say, after a strong start to the season, it's kind of like his 2020 form has seemed to have come back this season, really, because he has been caught in quite a lot of bad luck. But surely you'd think this chance of pole position should hopefully reignite a bit of confidence in the two-time top-class champion. Of course, I wonder how happy he was to see fellow compatriot Bartosz Klos winning the top class this past Wednesday. Of course, if you haven't seen the highlights to that, because that came out a couple of hours before the stream started, of course. Honestly, I would implore you to go and watch it, or if you want to watch the full stream, because it is still up on, because we do now keep up the full streams now on YouTube as a result of my Mac dying on me towards the second half of the 2021 season. But yeah, the full race is also up on YouTube as well if you don't want to watch the highlights, because it was a fantastic race indeed. And of course, as mentioned as well, we ended up having a first-time winner, and for the first time, Haas winning a race in the top class. Of course, Haas, of course, getting their first win in the top class before they try and do it in real life, really. So yeah, I think Flo even mentioned it at one point in the stream chat during the race. It seems that this Haas team in the OC is a lot more serious than the real life counterpart, which is, I guess, something to think about there. But anyway, as we're into the final 30 seconds now left in this session, as Quintino now comes around the final corner, as he will now cross the line. No improvement for him. Turwick now then across the line. He will go as he doesn't improve. Xavier Wee, 128.1, I think I said, or 128.7 for Hamid. Iboba will get one lap before the session comes to a close, so one more bit of mileage for him on these wet weather tyres. As FG now then crosses the line in the Mercedes, 128.9 for him. Fact crosses the line in the BMW. He crosses the line now then, and it's a 129.0 for him, a 129.3 for Michael Clark as the checkered flag now comes out, a 128.5. Soppanen crossed the line, a 128.7 for the Finn there. Nella just having one bit of mileage there. McKenzie, his former teammate, just getting a little bit of slipstream from him there down the pit straight. Campana, a 128 for him, a 129.0 for Roland Motrin there, as we now look at TJ Papero, who now crosses the line, a 129.0, 128.1 for, yeah, I think it was for Papero as well. I might have misread that one. 128.6 for Fraser, 128.6 for Graf. Titkov, a 128.7. Gonzalez just getting one lap of mileage, and of course he's going to have a lot of work to do in the race tomorrow, starting from 21st on the grid, and he'll be hoping he doesn't get involved in any incidents that happen on the first lap, because it can be a bit of a thing around here at Portimao, and usually a tradition that we've seen so far throughout the races we've had here at Portimao is that usually the driver who starts on the second row, particularly in third place, normally has a great launch into the first corner, and we've seen that in the top class a few times. We've even seen it in F2 as well, and even DTM and Formula. Well, not so much Formula V because of the physics for that, but I think it was also the same in DTM as well. But I might be a little bit wrong on that one. But anyway, has everybody now finished their laps? I think they have. So that means that Jay McKenzie is now officially on pole position. We already knew about it anyway. Just as the sun comes out, of course, on the racetrack. You might have just been able to see a glimpse there, but now we can officially say that Jay McKenzie has taken his first pole position of the season, his first since last season, if I am not mistaken. So, yeah, that's that really, as we wait for it to go back onto the menu screen here, which is taking a little bit of a while, it's fair to say. But just bear with for the time being. It should hopefully load up. And so that's pretty much that. But yeah, that's that really, as we wait now then for the menu screen to come back on. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of a while, I think, but there we go, as we now take a look at the full session times then. So, Jay McKenzie is on pole position for tomorrow's race, with Michael Clark alongside him in second place. Matthias Turwitt will start in third, with Will Neller fourth. Dennis Graff will start in fifth, with Victor Uboba in sixth. Max Skillen starts in seventh, with Will Parrish in eighth. Lincoln Parner in ninth, followed by Xavier Wee in 10th. Maxim Titkov qualified 11th, however, due to his 5-place grid penalty, he will start down in 16th, so instead it will be Mohamed Usman Hamid will start in 12th, and thankfully the game got that one correct, because they actually set the same lap time. I've only just realised that, but Hamid will start in 11th position. Thankfully, Titkov was also 11th on the GPX patch graphics there, so not an issue there. So Hamid will be 11th, Fraser 12th, Motrin 13th, Fact 14th, FG will be in 15th, then it will be Maxim Titkov in 16th, with Gabriel Quintino 17th, Juho Soppinen in 18th, Franco Gamba in 19th, with TJ Prepera in 20th, Rubino Gonzalez in 21st, and Josh Fings in 22nd and last. So there you have it then. That has been it from the qualifying session. Of course, not exactly the qualifying session that we wanted, really, because unfortunately we only got to see one flying lap, really, but these things happen. It is racing at the end of the day, and of course it's one of the things that obviously makes it quite exciting as well, especially because it can sometimes mix up the grid. And clearly, I think it has done on this occasion, because we have seen Gonzalez on the back row of the grid didn't quite get his first lap hooked up before the rain soaked up the track. But yeah, quite a bit of work to do for him. But it should hopefully be a good race, of course. I won't be there tomorrow to do the commentary, of course, because I'm not usually available on the Saturdays. But hopefully we should have Christina in the commentary box for tomorrow, because I am aware that Dennis Graff is not available to do commentary this time by. He's usually the one doing commentary for DTM, but it seems that on this occasion he's not available this weekend. So hopefully Christina will be there, and hopefully somebody else will be alongside Christina as well in the commentary box, rather than it just being a solo run. But anyway, that has been it then, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I'm in JW97, and we will see you tomorrow at 7 PM BST for the DTM race here at Portimao. Of course, don't forget tomorrow the Formula E and World Champ Car joint sign-ups will open as well. So do